Welcome to the Parsha Perspective. Each week, we will delve deep in a weekly Torah portion to find a practical and insightful way to enhance your daily life. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Rabbi Shalom Yamini, and each week we will look into the weekly Torah portion to find practical and insightful ways to enhance your daily life. This week's Parsha Perspective is in honor of our homeland to Eretz Yisroel. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu, may God protect our brave soldiers, and may God return all the hostages from Gaza immediately. This week's Parsha Perspective is in loving memory of Edward Ben Efraim, Shlomo Ben Edward, and Yirachmiel Daniel Ben Gedalia. May their souls be uplifted and may their memories be a blessing. This week's Parsha Perspective is also in honor of the Refuah Shlema of Pesha, Henna, Yitta, Gittel, and Mordechai ben Rashel. May they experience a speedy and complete recovery. This week's Torah portion is Parshas Vayechi, as we conclude the first book of the Torah, Sefer Bereishis, blessing the future. Our Parsha begins with Yaakov Avinu spending the last 17 years of his life in Egypt, a time of peace and calmness after decades of struggle. As his life neared its end, Yaakov called his son Yosef and asks him to swear that he will not bury him in Egypt, but in the land of Israel with his father and grandfather. Yosef swore to honor his father's request. Yaakov then blesses Yosef's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, elevating them to the status of tribes within the Jewish people. And this act ensured Yosef's legacy would hold a unique and eternal place in Jewish history. As his final moments approached, Yaakov gathered his 12 sons, and he blesses each one of them individually, assigning them their role within the Jewish nation. At the age of 147 years old, Yaakov Avinu passes away peacefully surrounded by his family. Yosef receives permission from Pare to bury Yaakov in the land of Israel, and accompanied by his brothers and a large delegation of Egyptian officials, Yosef fulfills his father's wish. Yaakov is buried in Hebron in the Ma'aras HaMachpelah alongside the patriarchs and matriarchs. Our parsha concludes with Yosef passing away at 110 years old, and before his death, Yosef expresses his unwavering faith in God that he will redeem the Jewish people and bring them back to the promised land. He made his brothers swear to carry his remains when they left Egypt, a promise later fulfilled by Moshe Rabbeinu in generations much later on. However, a question comes to mind. When blessing Yosef's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, Yaakov elevates them to the status of his own sons and within tribes of the Jewish people. And he declares, Bach Yevarech Yisrael Lemar, Yisimcha Elokim ke Ephraim v'che Manasseh. By you shall Israel bless, saying, may God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh. This declaration establishes a tradition that fathers bless their sons with these words, some every Friday night, while others only before Yom Kippur. But why were Ephraim and Manasseh chosen as the standard for all future generations? Why don't we bless our children to be like Yaakov's own sons, the tribes of Israel who laid the foundation for the Jewish nation? What is so unique about Ephraim and Manasseh that Yaakov sets them as the goal for the future generations to aspire to? The Chassam Sefer, Reb Moshe Schreiber, a leading Torah scholar from the early 19th century, gives an interesting explanation. And he writes that we bless our children to be like Ephraim and Manasseh because of the extraordinary and complete blessing they received from their grandfather, Yaakov Avinu. When Yaakov blessed his grandsons, he did so with such an abundant and full-hearted measure of blessing that it became the benchmark for all future generations. Yaakov saw in Ephraim and Manasseh a unique strength, their ability to maintain holiness and a connection to God even while living in Egypt, a land of spiritual impurity. And recognizing their spiritual resilience, Yaakov elevates them to the status of tribes within the Jewish people, placing them on par with his own sons, an act that sets them apart and as the model of what every child should strive to become. The blessing they received was so rich, was so complete, that it became synonymous with wishing the highest good for one's children. By blessing our sons to be like Ephraim and Manasseh, we invoke the unparalleled measure of divine favor, spiritual integrity, and wisdom that Yaakov poured into them. It is a wish not only for the greatness, but for the strength to achieve it even in the most challenging circumstances. However, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, of blessed memory, gives a deeper and more profound explanation. And he writes that Ephraim and Manasseh represented more than just the standard we strive for, their unwavering commitment to God and Torah. Despite being raised in Egypt, a land steeped in idolatry and moral corruption, demonstrates the extraordinary power of spiritual resilience. While everything around them could have drawn them away from their beliefs, they remained steadfast in their dedication to God, embodying the strength and the continuity of the Jewish people. Rabbi Sachs explains that the true blessing lies in Yaakov's ability to see his grandchildren follow in the same path of devotion as their father Yosef and their grandfather. This is not just a given, especially in the spiritually hostile environment of Egypt. Yet Ephraim and Menashe's faithfulness to God was a testament to the strength of the foundation that has been laid out before them. Yaakov's blessing to his grandchildren, therefore, was the reflection of this remarkable continuity and the hope it inspired. We bless our children with the same prayer and the vision, that they remain firmly rooted in the Torah and in God's mitzvahs, and that they merit to see their own grandchildren follow in their path. And this blessing carries hope that the next generation will not only continue to believe in the same God, but it would also cherish and preserve the same values, learn the same Torah, and hold steadfast to the tradition of the Jewish nation. Rabbi Sachs highlights that the ultimate blessing is not just continuity, but the joy, but the fulfillment of seeing one legacy endure across multiple generations. It is the blessing of knowing that our children and grandchildren are spiritually connected, not just to us, but to the internal truth of the Torah, of mitzvahs, and to God Himself. And this deep bond with grandchildren represents the culmination of a life lived with faith, a life lived with love, and ultimately devotion to God. Yaakov's blessing of Ephraim and Menashe is a reminder that the ultimate measure of success is not only the paths we walk ourselves, but the strength of the path of those generations who come after us. This profound lesson from Rabbi Sachs is ever more relevant as anti-Semitic rhetoric grows, especially within our schools, colleges, and universities. The attack of October 7th, 2023, has been a watershed moment, prompting many to ask, have we set our foundation correctly? How strong and resolute are our children and grandchildren in their connection to our Father in heaven, Avinu Shebashamayim? And this moment has deepened the bonds within families, deepened the bonds within communities, forcing us to reflect on the strength of our faith amid social challenges. For those raised by Holocaust survivors, this lesson resonates deeply. They have seen their children and grandchildren stand tall, unafraid to proclaim Am Yisrael Chai. The ultimate blessing is not merely seeing our children follow in our path, but witnessing our grandchildren carry it forward with strength and conviction. And this continuity, even amid adversity, assures us that our foundations are firm, our faith is enduring, and that the ultimate redemption is within reach. In our daily lives, it is imperative to recognize that our greatest accomplishment is the continuation of our families, values, and beliefs. True fulfillment comes from seeing our children embrace the principles we hold dear and carry them forward with conviction and purpose. Our highest achievement will be not defined by the money in our accounts or the homes we build, but by the unity we create. A family of individuals bound by shared traditions, meaningful values, and a lasting legacy. There's no greater blessing than seeing the future generations remain connected to their roots, ensuring the foundation we have built continues to guide and inspire for years to come. There's a great quote that I once heard. To see your grandchildren live with the same devotion that once guided you is to witness eternity. Have a great weekend and good Shabbos. Thank you for tuning in to the Parsha Perspective. Check out our website, theparshaperspective.com. Send thoughts and comments to theparshaperspective@gmail.com. Till next time, thanks for listening.